Are you satisfied with your understanding of sustainability? If you are not, imagine a journey together, a pluralistic one, with academia, innovators, startups, NGOs, all looking for solutions to the greatest challenge of our time. My name is Samuele Tini, and this is the Sustainability Journey. Welcome to a new episode. Today we are going in the intriguing world of fashion and sustainability, and we do it with somebody who has been at the forefront of sustainability for many years, from bigger companies and now to an innovative startup trying to change the paradigm of fashion and work and sportswear. And I'm very pleased to meet today the CEO and co-founder on the Unless Collective, Eric Liedtke. Thank you so much, Eric, for being with us today.
It's great to be here, Samuel. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your listeners.
Thank you so much, Eric. And we want to know a bit. You have been a wonderful career, but before, as usual, we want to know a bit. Can you discuss a bit your personal and professional sustainability journey? So who is Eric for our listenership?
Good questions. Who is Eric? I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm someone that's, always in discovery mode. So my journey is, one from, very, very health conscious, very sports focused as a youth growing up. If I wasn't doing sports, having done sports or thinking about sports, I wasn't very happy and I wasn't very pleasant to be around. So I would say, from a very young age, my parents involved me in different activities for health, for physical movement. My father was a physician, so we ate well from a nutrition standpoint. So I think there was always built in me this aspect of, of nutrition health, physical health, maybe a little amount of mental health, but primarily just, movement and eating right, leads to a better life. And, I think through life, I've kind of built on that and, kind of like became a vegan about 8 to 10 years ago. First it was vegetarian. First it was only no red meat. So I forget what they call that, but only fish and chicken. And then it went to vegetarian and now it's full on vegan. And I do that for health reasons, but I also do it for ethical reasons. I do subscribe to the issue that, our fellow species are sentient beings, and I think we take them for granted. And I think there's room for improvement in how we nourish ourselves. Let's put it that way, especially how we raise our food and how we end up putting food on our plates. So I won't go down that rabbit hole, but I've always kind of been caring about not just my health, but I've broadened that into the health of the world, I guess, and the health of our fellow species on this planet. So that's kind of a little bit about me, awkwardly so. So that's me.
And that is, I think, the purpose and the work with your dad and the influences that shaped also your journey into sustainability. And you had a wonderful career in the world. So you have been at the leadership level of one of the biggest brands, we can say Adidas, and now you are still in the sportswear trying to work. And fashion, sustainability, the trend, usually some people term it as an oxymoron, something that seems at odds, like how you can be sustainable, these things. So, and then I want to ask two questions. I mean, is it really an oxymoron for you, from your point of view? And reflecting back on the journey, because from there, with big companies, which are the challenges that, especially in Adidas and others, you have found, to put together and to reconcile these concepts?
My love of sports led me to Adidas. And, I started next to the mailroom and I was happier than, anybody could imagine because I was getting to talk about sports, do sports, and think about sports for a job. And like finding your purpose at work to marries with your self-interest is really magical. And I would just start there and say, I was not thinking about sustainability when I started Adidas. I was not thinking about helping the world or do different things. I was thinking about, wow, I get to talk about sports for my job. And that means it doesn't feel like work every day. It means I get excited on Sunday nights to go back to work. So that led me to a very successful career from, next to the mailroom to the board floor. I finished my career as the board president, as the brand president for Adidas and Reebok. But, along that journey and towards the end of that journey, really the last 6 or 7 years when I was at Adidas, it was about, okay, we need to really listen to the consumers. We need to understand what we can offer the consumers in a more desirable way. And so, of course, we know when you're making product for Lionel Messi or you're making product for these superstars, of course, you need to make great sports products. So you need to make product that helps you run faster, kick stronger, jump higher. And that's like, okay, that's clear. If you're going to be the best sports brand in the world, you need to make great sports product. But we recognized from a consumer desirability standpoint, the culture of sport doesn't really stop when you leave the pitch. It doesn't stop when you leave the court. It goes with you into the streets, in the hallways of life, and into the music venues. And now we introduced people like, Kanye West or Beyonce or Pharrell Williams or Bad Bunny or some of these, celebrities that aren't immediately recognized as sports first, but they certainly pull from the culture of sport and create really interesting, desirable products. So that was something we recognized in our consumers' lives as well, not just sport product, but life product. Also, because of the magic of our cell phones and our mobile phones, we all get to be acutely aware of the problems that occupy the world, whether it be geopolitical, whether it be macroeconomic, or whether it be sustainable and climate. And I think what we realized in talking to our consumers is they care. They really care. And what could we do to help them, to provide them solutions to participate? Because the consumers, they didn't know how to, participate in caring. They cared, so you can hit the like button on your Instagram feed or whatever all day long or whatever. But ultimately, couldn't we provide purchasing opportunities for them to really show that they care and be a conscious consumer? And that kind of led to this world aspect where, so you think about the game, we talked about the life, but also what offer are we going to provide our customers, our consumers from the world standpoint? And that is what really led to an association with Parlay for the Oceans and really showed us at Adidas, but also I think the entire industry, that doing good is not just philanthropic, it's actually good business. And so I'll give you a story. When we introduced the first ocean plastic shoe, so the first shoe that was made out of collected ocean plastic waste in 2015, I had the opportunity to stand in front of the United Nations General Assembly and present that shoe as a symbol that we could make beautiful, productive, commercial things out of the waste that we're dumping into the world. And that post of that shoe and the sea turtle drowning in a gill net went as far and as wide as anything we ever did with Kanye West or with Lionel Messi. And that was like, okay, now I could take that to the boardroom and say, guys, this is not philanthropy. This is good business. This builds consumer advocacy. And that was a light bulb going off, not just in my head, but in the company's head. And with that, Adidas really started to embrace, this battle with plastic, if you will, and really started to do great things as far as cleaning up their plastic footprint, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll pause there because I think I've went a little deeper than maybe you wanted, but just wanted to.
No, it's really interesting to see also the transformational journey in bigger company and how sustainability has become also an integral part of business, and also doing good while also doing well from a business standpoint view. And then I want to talk now. You have left Adidas because you wanted to be even more innovative and more in the start, and then you jumped yourself in the startup world.
Let me just pick up that story then, if you want to keep going.
Yes.
So now there's this inflection point in my life, in the company's life, in the industry's life of ocean plastic. So we then, basically we turned over the keys to our employees and we said, hey, we're going to try to do as much as we can to get off of plastic. And so we eliminate plastic bags in our retail outlets. We eliminate plastic beads in our beauty product. We eliminate plastic bottles on all of our campuses. We said, and for your listeners, you have to understand 70%. So 3/4 of all fashion out there, 3 trillion industry is primarily made from some sort of plastic product. So some sort of petroleum-based feedstock that is a forever material. It never goes away. It just continues to live and breathe with us. And we can talk about that if you like. So then we made a mission. We made a very strong goal to Adidas and said by 2024, and this is back in 2019, by 2024, we will stop using virgin polyester, virgin plastic products. We will convert everything we do to recycled polyester. So not perfect, but better, right? We're only going to use the stuff that already is in existence. And that primarily comes from plastic bottles. It's called PET. So the idea is that we could reuse plastic that was already existing and we can start to turn off that tap of new production of things. And I'm proud to say that I left in 2000. So we made that goal in 2015. And by 2024, I believe this year, Adidas will announce that they've been completely off of virgin polyester, which is a big milestone. And we set that goal because it's very expensive to do. And that's why it took 9 or 10 years to get there, because you got to go step by step by step. But the message there is big companies can create great change. You can, as you said, do good by doing well, but you've got to be very respectful and understanding of the fiduciary responsibility that you have as a big company to your shareholders. And you can't just swing wildly from 0 to 100%, because there is a premium price to pay for recycled polyester versus virgin. Those are very incongruent to, being more profitable. But when you build advocacy through it, you can justify that because your consumers are becoming more desirable of your brand as you become more sustainable. So you just have to kind of balance the two demands of a stronger bottom line with the ability to build consumer advocacy. Ultimately, just to continue that, so we did that, very proud. But as I started this journey from 2015, and we built on that, as I went down this education, if you will, and I started to meet more and more interesting people like yourself that would educate me on the problem of, ocean degradation or climate degradation, and the responsibility that fashion has in that, with it, not only its polyester / petroleum / plastic footprint, but its carbon footprint overall, and the degradation it was doing through fast fashion and et cetera. So I started to learn a lot about, creating systemic change within an industry that would require. I also realized that if you're going to try to fix things, you've got to sometimes go outside to look inside. And so I was getting all these messages in my head, and I wanted to put 100% of my time against these initiatives, against trying to fix this. And as a board member and president of the brand, I had 1,000 things to do that weren't associated with this. I had to worry about China, the growth in China commercially. I had to worry about, doing things better with our sports product or with our lifestyle product, or et cetera. So you've got 1,000 priorities, and maybe 5 or 10% of my time was committed to this. But this is what I cared about. Going back to my story, it was not just about my own health. Of course, it's associated, but it was about really the health of my children, the health of my planet, and the health of, what are we going to leave for 7 generations later. And so as I started to really wrestle with those things, I made the hard decision to, okay, and now I have to go outside of Adidas. I have to leave the best job I could have ever had and go into startup life to try to really disrupt the entire fashion industry by creating a new supply chain made out of plants. And, pivoting from plastics to plants is the great next step for the industry. Everybody knows it. It's just not going to happen with the current incumbent brands because too many of the different priorities to adhere to.
And so that is the part of the unless collective. So can you explain a bit more? What are you trying to achieve? What is your idea, and how you want to disrupt really the industry?
The industry is built on plastic, right? And I want to build the future industry on plants. It's that simple. So you've got to model that out as a standalone brand. So ideally, you have innovators, and we're not tech innovators. We work with brilliant chemists, designers, engineers that are developing plant-based materials every single day. And it's been really, really great to see how this field is exploding. And if you think plant-based protein, so think of your favorite, Impossible meat, or your Beyond Burgers, or your Oatly oat milks and things like that. These are what I call plant-based proteins. And it's just been unbelievable the last 10 years of how successful they've been from penetrating the marketplace. So I look at that and I was like, well, why can't we do the same thing with plant-based polymers? Why can't we create polymers that are just as flexible and usable and performance oriented as plastic polymers? I mean, you have to get into the details a little bit to understand how fabric is made and what goes into that. But ultimately, plastic is a wonderful invention. It's flexible. It's heat and cold resistance. It's moldable. You can do many different things. It's breathable. It's water repellent, but ultimately it's laced with tens of thousands of chemicals, phthalates, that enter our bodies and do unheard of damage to our endocrine systems, to, carcinogenic, cancers and things like that. So we took the challenge to say, let's make things out of plants and let's work with innovators to solve for those. So there's a lot of things to solve for. It's not easy, but I'm proud to say that today, Unless Collective has pioneered just about everything we need now to scale the offer, if you will. So we figured out, how to make knits, how to make wovens, how to make shoes, how to do socks, how to make hats, and everything, so that each one of those is a long, dark haul, a long, dark tunnel of challenge of trying to, innovate against those briefs. But we've been able to model that out. And now I'm very excited to take the next step in our journey, which is to start to partner with bigger brands like Parley partnered with Adidas.
Fantastic. And I want to know, I'm getting excited. I would like to know first a bit more about the technology, which plants, how you do it. And then, of course, the question that our audience, which is very sustainability oriented, we want to know, which are the next milestones when we will see the socks and the shoes out in the market.
I think, like some stuff is relatively easy. Like to make apparel, it's relatively easy. It's a cotton feedstock for the most part. So cotton is out there, it's plentiful, it's available, but it's 100% cotton. And when I say 100%, I mean, it's like most companies are blending their cotton with polyesters and synthetics and nylons, and that just contaminates anything you can do with it. So it's also about how you construct it. It's like, how do you put the cotton products together? How do you stitch it together? Because most stitching is done with nylon. Almost 100% is done with nylons and synthetics. We don't allow that. So we're 100%. Like, and what do you do from a color, from a color standpoint, color treatment? What do you do from a wristband treatment? And how do you provide that stretch and that different piece that's not synthetic? One thing that people don't understand is the Federal Trade Commission and most trade commissions allow you to say something's 100% cotton when it's only 70% cotton, because they really are only concerning about the base material. They don't worry about the trims and the closures and how it's constructed and how it's dyed and how it's printed. We worry about all those things, because if you're a vegan, you're not going to eat a 70% vegan burger. You're not, it's like, it doesn't make sense to make something that says 100% cotton when it's really not. But we've allowed that to happen because the government really only cares about labeling things based upon duties and importation and what materials it is. They don't care about providing clarity on what it's made of because they're concerned about your health. That's just a new frontier that's coming along. We care about that. We care about your health. We care about the planet's health. We care about harmful waste at end of life. So we always start at the end and say, how do we create good, nutrient-rich soil out of our product? And we start there. And then every step of the way, when we back up to make product, we make sure everything we put into it is from basically plants and minerals that goes back to being nutrient-rich plants and minerals. So no chemicals, no phthalates, no plastics, no polymers, no things like that are really negative. So as I said, apparel, knits, pretty easy. Wovens, a little bit more difficult, but getting there. Closure systems, we had to source what we call a Corozo nut shell, which Corozo nuts are based native to the Philippines, but they grow, I think, all over the more equatorial regions of the world. And so we're able to harvest those. And that's not something we invented. They exist. You just have to find them. But we don't put coatings on them or anything like that. Also, we now are working with an insulation supplier, which comes in from a kapok tree. Now, you may be familiar with kapok trees because they're in the rainforests of all the world, but kapok trees are these wonderful, tall, trees that grow these great magical seeds that are filled with a silky, cottony type of texture. And that gives that what it does. It's not as threadable as a cotton, but it gives a nice lift. And when you have lift, you can make a cushioning device out of it or an insulation device. So when we do a puffy jacket or something like that, or like a work vest, we then fill that up with kapok, which kapok residues a company called Flocus. So it's really about discovering all these different pieces of supply chain. From a shoe standpoint, we had to solve for plant-based leather. We had to solve for plant-based foam. We had to solve plant-based rubber. Now, again, there's a natural rubber latex that exists in the world, but most rubbers are now synthetic because of demand. So we go all the way back and start saying, okay, let's harvest hevia, if you will, from the plant-based latex trees that are native to, again, equatorial regions. So it really requires a lot of diligence, but you can solve for everything if you have the time and the mission to do it. I think too many people take shortcuts. So we've done it now, and we've set a supply chain up for others to follow. So now our next step is to start to really scale the sale of our product. Now also to partner with other big companies, as I said, like Parlay did with Adidas. I'd like to partner with the big companies, whether it be Uniqlo or H&M or Gap or Nike or Adidas or New Balance or Under Armour. You name the big company, we can partner with them to collaborate and show them a better way, show the demand their consumers may have for the product, and ultimately start to get in their supply chain and show them how to do it themselves. Because then we can scale with the speed and urgency that we think the world really needs.
And it's fantastic. And it's also a way to go back a bit to our natural world. And I really like your thinking. You started with healthy soil, discussing about zero waste and natural decomposition for your products, which is something that instead of filling in a landfill of microplastics and polyester, which is all around us. I want to ask a question about the supply chain. How you have identified, and you also make sure that these products are, for example, certified, organic, fair trade, to really also give back to the community, especially that some of the product come from this side of the world where we are talking.
The organic cotton supply chain is primarily dominated by the Chinese industry, and it comes more from China. The problem is that with Chinese organic farms, you can't have the traceability that you need to understand where that's coming from. And there's a lot of evidence that would suggest a lot of that organic cotton is coming from the Uyghur region of China, where they're having, basically forced labor. And so we really don't want to participate in that. And I think it's nice. It's easy for the consumer to understand because they buy their food that's organic. We want organic apparel. That's great. But if you really dig into those topics of where organic products come from, you quickly realize there's issues in the organic supply chain. There are some good supply chains like coming out of Turkey, which is very strong. There, in the U.S., the organic rules and regulations are so difficult, it actually bankrupts a lot of farmers, and it's not worth the price because if you're an apparel company, you can just buy organic cotton much cheaper from China. Again, with that issue, because a lot of people don't go into that issue. So I think the organic cotton supply chain needs to get cleaned up, and there's not a lot of unified policies being written there. So what we like to work with is regenerative farmers. We like to work with farmers that are looking at, growing crops on a consistent basis that is not chemically intensive, of course, but something that's more going back to your point, going back to what we've known for thousands of years of how we produce crops, which is in much more regenerative way. And we're trying to really support that movement as much as possible because we actually call ourselves the pioneer of regenerative fashion, because we're not even talking about sustainability. We talk about regenerative fashion and how we build that into all of our product that goes back to dirt to grow new products, is literally adding value instead of destruction. So that's what our focus is. We have not really tapped in, to be honest, with the fair trade community. I mean, I think it's important to understand that, and we're conscious of it, but I think there's only so much a small startup can do. So we've picked our lane, which is regenerative fashion. We've picked our lane, which is working with regenerative farmers as much as possible. We've picked our lane, which is to model this regenerative fashion and partner then with big companies to scale change quickly. And that's where we've stuck our place at. So it's a lot of people can wag their finger and people can always find the issue here and there, but I think ultimately we're committed to cleaning up the footprint of fashion and the harmful waste that results from it.
Well, and then it's not a small mission by any standards, and it's really something that can help. I mean, we live in a world where even in Kenya, 90% of the clothes we receive are used clothes, polyester, and many of them sometimes they find in a landfill or you find in the clogging the system. So it's really important how you have something that is zero waste, it can regenerate. It would be wonderful to have and to scale. And I want to ask this question. It's really good. And we have spoken with many innovators that have great ideas, startups that can really disruptive. So from an industry point of view and a consumer point of view, which are the challenges and what needs to change to really scale and to make your movement, the unless collective and the less collective of the world become mainstream rather than innovative startups?
What I bring, what myself and the founders bring are a lot of industry experience. And so I have a lot of muscle memory built up from my days at Adidas. And so I look through the lens of, what would I want as the president of Adidas to be presented to me? Because that's the only way we're really going to scale change, right? And so there's two big components. One is the functionality of the product, right? You cannot ask the consumer to compromise the quality of the product. That means, does it perform? Does it keep you warm? Does it keep you dry? Is it flexible? Does it hold up to different temperatures? Does it have the same durability? So we really obsess on the details of making sure there's literally zero compromise in our products. And this goes for everybody compared to the status quo products that are offered in the marketplace. And that goes from not just a quality standpoint, a durability standpoint, but a design standpoint, because you cannot ask consumers, and this is my firm belief, and we can talk about, we can talk about other case studies. You cannot ask consumers to compromise their tastes for their values or their values for their tastes. You need to bring it together. If you really want to scale change, if you really want to create systemic change, which is what we need in every industry, you cannot ask to compromise that. And the example I always use is electric vehicles. Before Tesla came along, it was a smart car. If you wanted to drive an EV, and if you're familiar with a smart car, it was basically driving a go-kart. And that was asking consumers to say, hey, you have to compromise quality, you have to compromise, design, you have to compromise space. I mean, it was a little box, right? And you drive around and and you wear your sustainability on your forehead. That's not going to create systemic change. Systemic change is meeting consumers where they're at. And you have to do that from a design standpoint. And then Tesla came out. Oh my God, it's a beautiful car. It's the fastest car in the Autobahn. It's roomy, it's beautiful, and it's built on electric stack. Oh, I get to have my cake and eat it too. That is the answer. So you have to start there. And the second point that you have to really come through is you have to have unit economics that have the roadmap to parity to the existing material supply chain that you're using today in the industry. So, anybody can do one, I call it lot size one. Anybody can do one thing once. Like anybody can go in a laboratory and build this beautiful looking thing made out of 3D printing, mycelium, whatever it may be. But if you can't replicate it, and if you can't get to scale to replace the existing incumbent materials, then you'll never scale it. Again, the big companies will never bring it in-house because they have fiduciary responsibility. They have to meet their top and bottom line, and you're not going to scale the change you want. So it becomes this battle of what I call capsule collections, which is like they're nice, but they don't scale change. They're just like, they're almost companies virtue signaling. Look, we're using mycelium. Isn't that nice? And a $50 billion company will do 10,000 units, which is less than a drop in the sea. So you really need to give them offers that scale at the current price point. So it's two things. It's the quality and design, and it's the unit economics. And those are two things that all innovators need to keep in mind. And if they don't, I'm sorry to say, you're not going to get the change you seek or your idea may provide.
And it's a fantastic lesson, Eric, to pass from advocacy and maybe some nice things to really scale and action. Because, as you said, in the movement for sustainability, sometimes asks to compromise. Oh, it's not that perform, but it's nice. It's good for the environment. It's good for. But of course, you can.
I think you're always going to have an audience that's receptive to doing the right thing, regardless of some of those compromises. But if you really want to create systemic change, which is my personal mission for my life, I want to. Fashion is a €3 trillion. That is, and it has the carbon footprint of Spain or Mexico on an annual basis. And it's just getting worse as you see the Sheins and the Temus and some of these fashion things come up. They're making shirts for less than a cup of coffee. So really we're getting single-use fashion from these companies now, which is ridiculous, right? And if we don't put our foot down and try to stop that and meet them where they are, then I'm fearful for what will happen, because consumers are right now voting with their wallet, and they're voting for Temu. They're voting for Shein. They're not voting for Unless yet, because we haven't given them the options yet to do this. So to me, it's about scaling those people. That's how you create systemic change, not just talking to your current existing, very nice to have consumers that will make compromises. You can't, if you really want to create.
And also we have to unlock this sustainability. It should be premium and very expensive, because of course this also need to trickle down, as you said, really work also at the parity point with the materials that we have, and for doing this we need scale. And how do you respond with the consumer behavior? Because I've noticed, and also in my research and work, I've noticed a lot there is this mismatch. Sometimes, consumers, we want sustainability, everybody, yeah, but then there is this gap from behavior and really and ideas, I would call it. So how do you see how you can overcome that? How we can educate more the customers, but also getting and also reflecting on what you have done maybe in Adidas, bringing this life, high profile celebrity, how we can also trickle down and use that to really change the mentality.
Climate change has a storytelling problem. And I think, we need to work on story. I mean, I think ultimately, yes, creating the innovative product is the first step. So I always used to work on a very simple formula. If you start with the premise that no one needs a new pair of shoes, no one needs a new sweatshirt or t-shirt, but people want new things because it makes them feel good, and you get a dopamine hit when you have new things to wear and you look good and feel good and all those great things. So our job is not to get people to stop buying things. It's to get them to start buying smarter. So ultimately you've got to build the right product, but you've got to multiply that times a story. So it's a formula: product times story. And the story is where things fall down a lot. And I think that's where you really get into some challenges, because a lot of companies will wag their finger at the consumer and say, you just shouldn't buy that. And that's not going to meet the consumer's behavior where they're at. What we need to do is embrace the consumer where they are and show them a better way and give them a compelling story. Now that story can be a lot of different things. That story can be, hey, we always show our product in partially decomposed states. So we show it with worms growing through, going through it, and we show it with plants growing up, because we want to show consumers that the product you buy from us is going to go back and be nutritious worm and plant food. And if you show that in kind of like a mummified state or a decomposing state, people their imagination gets bigger. It's just like the parlay example I told you. It wasn't just the fact that it was a parlay ocean plastic shoe. It was this sea turtle that was drowning in the gill net. And all of us can agree that the sea turtle is loved by everybody, regardless of your political your political alliances or your economic, situation. We all naturally care about the areas around us. You know this firsthand from your conservation work in Kenya. The consumers care about the oceans. They care about the mountains. They care about the land we live on. They just don't know how to participate. So you need to show them a better way. At Adidas, we showed them a sea turtle they could save. And with Unless, we're showing them that their product goes harmlessly away, and you don't have to worry about microplastics and nanoplastics and things that are toxins entering your body. So that's a very key thing. And of course, you can layer on top of that influencers, entertainers, artists that can lend credibility to it. And we're always talking to people like that to do collaborations or do things interesting. It's just, to be quite honest, it's become a very transactional business. And I want to make sure that we line ourselves with mission aligned people that care about what we're trying to do. So it's a little harder to find the right people. They don't, when you're at Adidas, it's a very transactional thing. We'll pay you X for you to help us do the Y, and Unless it's like, oh, tell me about why you believe in this. Oh, let me talk to you about, partnering with us. Oh, and now you need money, a lot of money too. Well, I can do two of those things, but I don't have a lot of money to give you because we're a startup. So those things are harder to get to. So we focus really on storytelling and building community that cares about these topics.
And I want to ask, now you have set the pace and you want to really scale it. So can I ask you, from your point of view, you have been in the industry, your co-founder also are in the industry, and you are now trying to disrupt it. How do you see it in the next 5 to 10 years? We will finally achieve this sustainable fashion. So how you see the future landscape?
When we introduced ocean plastic for the first time into the industry in 2015, it was a single shoe. By 2024 today, or even 23, it's probably a multi-billion-dollar business for Adidas. I don't know that. I don't have access to it, but I'm guessing the ocean plastic is in their supply chain so deeply that it's a part of many, many shoes. And I say that with just knowing that, if you go on their website and you look at ocean plastic, it's in a lot of their shoes. Not to say it's 100% of their shoes, but it's a part of a lot of their shoes. And there's also there's 2 or 3 supply chains where if I just want to go on and say, make an ocean plastic brand, I can find resources that would sell me that stuff right now. So it's become basically a floor item of access that it was never there before 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago. So it's there's brands that are built just on ocean plastic. Like there's a bag company called Guts out of Germany. So it's really remarkable what could happen in 10 years. So I'm foolish enough and cocky enough to think, well, in 10 years, we should regenerative fashion, which is what we're calling this, not sustainable. Regenerative fashion should be 10 to 15% of the overall revenue of fashion if we're doing our job, because that means we've pioneered this and we're looking 10 years out. So I'm looking at 2034. Why can't it be something that's a part of all the major fashion brands, all the major, developers, whether it be fast fashion or whether it be sports or whether it be high fashion? It doesn't matter. Everyone should be tapping into it because it's such the right thing to do. And I get that reaction from everybody. So I think 15%, I come up with that because it's an inflection point for the industry. And once you hit those kind of numbers, then it becomes this snowball effect that's going well on its way to taking over the existing supply chain.
Fantastic and ambitious plan, and really something that can be a trigger point, and then from there, from 15 to 50, it will be, as you said, a snowball effect, and really something that also help. And consumers, they need to do also their part to embrace and work on that. But also innovators and entrepreneurs, because we need maybe more of unless collective and people that join this regenerative fashion movement. I want to, which advice you can give, for example, to entrepreneurs that aim to integrate sustainability in the business and especially in the fashion?
You just got to start doing stuff. I think ultimately the world needs more builders, more creators, and we need to do that with a purpose or with a conscience. And I think, ultimately every industry needs this kind of systemic change. I leaned into fashion because that's the industry I've been working in the past 3 decades. But, if you think about the beauty care industry, you think about the toy industry, you think the home industry, it's like there's so many opportunities to disrupt and systemically change those industries with smart, driven, mission-driven people. And I would just remind your viewers or tell your viewers that the Unless name came from a Dr. Seuss book called The Lorax. And at the end of the book, it basically, this is the line I always tell people is, unless someone like you comes along and cares a whole awful lot, nothing will get better. It simply will not. And, that's the message that a child's book, told me 4 years ago when I was reading it during the pandemic to my daughter. And it was an aha moment. It's like, that's me. I have to do this. I mean, this is my life's work. And now I've had the career that I've had, so I've got a privileged position to start from. But that doesn't mean the generations that are following can't build upon that and get started, because I'm so inspired by the engineers, the chemists, the innovators that I meet that are doing great things. And literally they're in their 20s. And I think the world is in their hands. And I think we as senior, experienced people need to help them scale their changes.
Fantastic, Eric. I mean, such an insightful episode. Really, I've learned a lot, and it's something that I think it inspire also the people to make sustainable and conscious choices towards regeneration. I think you have it really. I will start also using this regeneration fashion as we use for regenerative agriculture, regenerative also capitalism and industry.
Yes.
We need to regenerate rather than extract from the model that we ever use. So it's been a pleasure and an honor having you, Eric. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sam. I appreciate it. It was a fun conversation.
Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.